Hi there, Sean Kevelighan here with Triple I for another executive exchange. Except this one's a bit of a repeat executive exchange as we have our first returning guest. Today, I'm fortunate to have Bob Marshall. He's the CEO of Whisker Labs, which really has made some remarkable progress since we first had Bob on. So I'm happy about that. And Bob, welcome and welcome to being our first recurring guest.
Sean, it's an honor to be the first recurring guest, and great to be here.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. We sat down first in the fall of 2023, talked about the Ting device, which Whisker Labs puts out, and how this is just really a great illustration of predict and prevent. And since then, you've reached over 1 million homes and you now have more than 30 insurance carrier partners. So what have you found to be kind of the keys to scaling this type of Internet of Things claims prevention type of tool?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. It's first of all, I think it's you've got to have something that engages and captures the attention of the homeowner, and they're willing to engage with the carrier, get the technology in place, install the technology, and let it work to prevent the fire or the water loss. And so we've been fortunate that Ting and the fire prevention use case is something that people care about. They really worry about losing their home and their family to a fire. So they respond to that message from our carrier partners. And one of the cool things we've learned over the last couple of years is the carriers have found that Ting is like the gateway drug. I mean, if you actually get Ting into our customer's home and we deliver a great experience to them, they're much more willing to engage in water loss prevention after that. So it's really critical that that the homeowners engage, number one. Number two, it's just got to be simple too. The technology, I think, when you go back many years, some of the first attempts at this were too complicated for the customer, too complicated for the carrier, and that's why they didn't work. And what's going to work and what's going to scale has got to be super simple for the customer and the carrier. And obviously with Ting, you just plug it in and it's easy and it does its thing. And then lastly, which I'm sure we'll talk about today, is the ROI's got to be there. I mean, right, you have to be able to document that we're preventing losses and generating an economic return for the carrier at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. That's what we want to talk about next is the ROI. That was our reoccurring research we did with Whisker Labs was you and Whisker Labs and Octagram. We were able to put together a study that really highlighted the impact of fire prevention and avoiding the claims. And oftentimes the ROI is probably the biggest challenge when carriers are trying to embrace new types of technology and innovations. So what do you think, makes that so difficult to really prove that ROI, and how were you able to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, it's definitely a unique challenge, I would say, for any peril-based IoT predict and prevent program. I think you start off with the fact that the perils that we're trying to prevent are relatively low frequency. Certainly that's clear in fire. I mean, it's electrical fire is a 1 in 2,000-ish kind of hazard. Even water, it's 1 in 60 home. It's not like every home has a water loss every year. So the frequency is relatively low. Obviously, in the case of fire, the severity is very high. So you're dealing with a low frequency event. So you need a lot of data to know whether you're actually preventing fires. And the claims data itself is really challenged. I mean, and that's unique, particularly unique to fire. And it's not necessarily the carrier's fault. It's even the firefighters and the fire marshals that go in after a fire don't know what the cause was. They may think it was electrical, but they can't prove it. And it ends up going into a bucket of claims that nobody really knows what the cause was. So that's a challenge when working with the claims data. And then I would say, lastly, on the challenge side, and we overcame all these things with the approach that we did with you in Triple I, but is the self-selection bias. So, when you offer a program like fire prevention and fire safety to a cohort of customers, the ones that opt in aren't necessarily the same as the ones that don't. There's a self-selection that occurs. And I think what we now know, it actually goes in both ways. You get a cohort of customers that are your best and safest customers that opt in because they're just very much care about their home and they're willing to invest their time and do anything they can. But then you have the people that perceive that there's something wrong in their home electrically, and people are not very smart necessarily on electricity, but they have a sense. If your breaker panel looks old, things are a little wonky, with things working in your home. Those customers are the first ones to opt in. And from an ROI perspective, that's really important because you're taking what otherwise are the riskiest customers and they're self-selecting in. So, to the extent that we take very risky customers and make them safe, that's a huge benefit to the carrier from an ROI perspective.
So, I mean, you've got clear ROI being demonstrated, but you and I have talked about this before. But and you're growing very well, and many carriers are now embracing this. But you're still trying to get even more scale on this, and so obviously you're demonstrating the ROI, but you still are facing challenges for helping the carriers introduce these types of new technologies and prevention programs. What are you doing in terms of trying to overcome those hurdles that come along with getting the carriers to embrace it?
Yeah, and I'll focus on two quick things, and I'll come back to the ROI first because that's literally number one. It's the first question, what everybody wants to know, and just to comment on the study that we published with Triple I and Octagram. What is really cool about that is all we did is take all the claims data. So we get all the claims that we from all the carriers that we work with that occur in Ting homes, and we plot them and track them over time. And what we see in that study is that the claims frequency drops dramatically in the days, weeks, and months after you plug in Ting, which makes sense. I mean, it takes time for Ting to analyze a home and then prevent fires. So that's really what's cool about the ROI. So that's number one, is just making sure carriers understand that it's not our data; it's literally the carrier data that we published there with Triple I and Octagram. And then I think the next challenge that we're very much focused on now, since the ROI thing is kind of, we've checked that box and we're comfortable that everybody's comfortable, is the marketing. I mean, really, carriers, if you think about it, they're amongst the most brilliant brand marketers on the planet. They do a tremendous job of brand marketing, but offering a peril-based and IoT technology prevention product is not kind of right in the sweet spot for their marketing programs necessarily. So we are working really hard to support our carrier partners on the marketing efforts to really connect with their customers and drive higher enrollment rates. And Whisker, now that we've been able to grow, we're going to actually make substantial investments ourselves to create awareness of Ting and what it can do and how it can benefit homeowners and customers, so that when our carrier partners do reach out to them, they're already familiar with Ting, and we get market pull. So we have customers asking carriers rather than carriers asking customers to adopt Ting. So we're excited by that because I think, to get to the kind of scale that is really meaningful for carriers. I mean, it's awesome, to be in a 1.2 million homes and growing at 50,000 homes a month. But really, to have an impact, we need to get into a substantial percentage of a carrier's book. And that's really a marketing challenge. How do you really do that efficiently? And Whisker's focused on helping our carrier partners do that. And I think we're well on our way to overcoming that challenge as well.
Well, and you're right. It's we've seen. I mean, we've done research through the Insurance Research Council that shows that the average consumer, still, it's taking some time for them to feel comfortable with all of this. As good as the return is, the return for them is to prevent their house from catching fire. But we've found research that things like telematics in automobiles are pretty comfortable at this point. People understand it and get it, but the home area is where there are more challenges to being embraced. And it's kind of where I'm going with my next question is, where do you see this? Because we know in the industry, we've got fire prevention type of tools that we're talking about with you today, water loss prevention type of tools. Where do you see this going in the next few years? And what really, where do you see technology's role in making homes safer?
Obviously, I'd love to talk about technology since I'm an engineer, and the only thing I'll comment on that, and obviously everybody's talking about it, is the AI. Ting would never work without the AI. I mean, we use everything, some very sophisticated uh, uh, AI on the electrical data we have to LLMs and our whole experience that we deliver to the customer, and it's incredible. I mean, so we can really AI is going to continue to make our product better and better for both the homeowner customer and the carrier. And then, I think we're going to get to that point because between what we're going to do from a marketing perspective, we're going to make this a mass market product, right? It's not there yet. There are challenges. People aren't. Is everybody comfortable with installing, a technology provided by a carrier? But there's too much good being done. When you look at, I look at my LinkedIn posts or whatever, it's just incredible what the customers say and the appreciation that they share with us and thanking their carrier for providing Ting technology to them. So we're gonna cross that chasm also to make this something that every customer wants and every carrier wants to deliver because it is just good, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
credit to Triple I, well before Ting, you all and strategic we're talking about predict and prevent, and that's a vision that I think just rings true for everybody. I mean, the best claim is one that never happens. It's better for the homeowner, better for the family, better for the carrier, and in the long run, that strategically is the right thing to do. And we just want to be a key part of it and help drive it. I think we'll get there with fire. We're going to get there with water. I mean, the water solutions are coming along. I mean, we just need to solve kind of the simplicity and the uptake on those two. But that's going to happen. I mean, and we can prevent a substantial portion of some of the worst, catastrophes that impact customers. And we're going to see that on we've talked about the grid stuff too. So, we are starting to make progress with utilities and things. So the data from the Ting network is going to contribute to preventing some of the catastrophic grid-caused wildfires. I mean, that's not going to happen soon, but obviously that's got a gigantic impact for all of society, and it's definitely going there. And the technology and the AI is going to help make it happen.
Absolutely. No, it's really a key tool to success. It's a great prevention. Every time I mention it to somebody, they want it. I've had numerous people tell me they've just gone and purchased them on their own, even. So they're great tools and great part of that resilience network that we're trying to build out. So this is your chance, Bob. Give me a couple questions.
Well, I mean, what do you see? I mean, from a carrier perspective, there's been a lot of challenges over the last number of years with inflation and rate pressures and things like that. I mean, how do you see that going forward?
Well, you're right. I mean, the carriers have experienced, related to natural catastrophe losses, and obviously home fires can be man-made or natural in some way. We're talking about electric fires here still, but losses are on the increase, and replacement costs are on the increase, and so the carriers are looking for ways to reduce the losses. The other part of this, though, I think is very important is something you touched on earlier about having more adoption in the carriers in their own, in order to make it truly more preventable. Because we see resilience as a community effort. And so you need to make sure that you have more and more of the community taking part in this. Because just because you're going to have one, especially in an urban setting, right? If you're just going to have one house that has a Ting, and for example, where we have a little house in Georgetown, we have a connected house. So fire can spread very quickly in those types of neighborhoods. So we might have a Ting, but perhaps the neighbor next to us or the neighbor 5 houses down doesn't. And that still makes us less resilient. And so I think, from the carrier perspective, getting more of these out into the community will make the community more resilient and, more insurable, quite honestly.
No, that's a great point, Sean, and I think this is a unique case where and these types of programs, particularly, I think we find with Ting, the carriers obviously compete on many fronts for customers and business, but there is a true network effect that happens here. So even a carrier that hasn't worked with Ting yet is benefiting from all the carriers that already have. I mean, when the Tings that are already in place are benefiting the future homeowners that will have Ting, because every time we get another Ting in another home, the technology, the AI gets smarter, and everybody gets better. I mean, so and that's something that the carriers can get behind. That in the end, everybody's on the same page here in trying to prevent catastrophes.
Absolutely. Well, Bob, this has been a great revisit. I know we catch up often personally, so it's great to see you again. I'm just thrilled though about the growth that we're seeing with Tings being out in the communities, and again, that's for home fire prevention and that's for grid resilience as well. You've got a remarkable technology. I'm thrilled that you introduced yourself to us one year, and I'm really happy for your growth and wish you continued success.
Well, thanks very much, Sean. Very much appreciated. And again, we really your team's fantastic to work with, and your data people are awesome, and your vision on predict and prevent is just really appreciate that for sure. Not just for us, but for everybody. And appreciate your leadership as always.
Absolutely. Anytime. And thank you all for joining us for another executive exchange. We'll see you next time.